live. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Good morning, everybody. My name is Courtney. You should know me by now anyway. I'm one of the teen librarians at the Addison Public Library, and you are?
Rachel.
That's true. That is also
another teen librarian at the Addison Public Library.
We're twinning today, actually. Look at that.
Good
Repping.
work.
It's like we planned. We did not plan.
We plan a lot of things, but
We plan a lot of things, but this was not one of those things. Apologies for being a smidgen late. Tech issues, as I've been very vocal. We're learning Twitch. And that includes the camera deciding that it needs to update and uninstall itself, and then I have to resolve that one.
but here we are.
But here we are. So we are going on and continuing on in our series of reading through The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Once again, I will complain about how ugly that cover is.
Are we looking up into the sky?
I just don't know. I've stared at this for way too long. I think this is just like their general
box.
makeup, and then they just put a picture here, but they decided to just do a moon.
It looks like we're inside of a cardboard box.
It does
looking up at the moon.
It's horrible.
And I know nothing about this book, so maybe
It's spooky.
there are boxes.
Yeah. Well, I will catch you up. I've got notes. There
I
are.
think my only Hound of the Baskervilles is from the Page Master.
Oh, that's fun.
He opens it and some hounds come out.
Spookifying. Yeah. See, like I read this ages ago, so like half the time when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, I think I remember do I, or am I just being suspicious? And then also like BBC Sherlock, that episode was really darn good. They did a Hound of the Baskervilles episode, which was really cool, but like nothing is the same.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So this is Book Buffet. Hi, we'll get into that. This is going to be like our new series. We'll meet on Thursdays at 10:30 or when I get the camera to work. So yeah, looking forward to that. We'll probably talk more about books and do some book and reading recommendations, but since we kind of started late, we'll just skip to the story a little bit more. And besides, we've honestly been so obsessed with the Paralympics lately that we've not been talking about books very much. We've been more celebrating all of the amazing athletes that have been like just competing and just showing off just their amazing skills. If you are super interested in the Paralympics and you are local to Addison area, stop on over. I've got a bunch of displays. If you're here after school, we're giving out candy for trivia questions. Today's highlight is wheelchair basketball.
Very fun.
Which is very fun. Mom and I were watching that last night. And then she went, but wheelchair rugby's more fun. And I went, okay, let's watch that.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to complain about watching wheelchair rugby now. It's my favorite. Okay, so are you ready for the tea?
Yeah.
Because there is some drama that is happening.
Tell me what this whole thing was about.
Okay, so this all started with Sherlock Holmes and his bestie, John Watson.
Okay.
Yeah, the dynamic duo. They're hanging out at their house, and they noticed that somebody had like left their walking stick there, which I'm not sure how somebody got into their house without knowing. Whatever.
They had a party.
They did not.
Someone left the walking stick.
Sherlock Holmes is very, very neurodivergent. He is not a party type. Watson might have been rowdy. So they're looking at this stick, and like at one point, Sherlock's like, "Oh, well, clearly, like the man has a dog. It's a Cocker Spaniel. He has a Cocker Spaniel." And John's like, "How do you know that?" And he's like, "Well, there's bite marks on the stick. Also, he's standing outside with his dog." So in comes Dr. Mortimer, who is like a country doctor, but he's got like city connections. And he like retired to the country. He got to know, he like lives out in the moors, which is sort of like very hilly, barren, little spookifying, but gorgeous, you know?
You're heartbroken, you take a walk.
Yeah, you go take a walk and then you fall into a hole.
Yeah.
That type of place, you know? So he was a doctor there, and he knew Sir Charles Baskerville of the Baskervilles. And Sir Charles Baskerville had recently died.
Okay.
Very mysterious. He was out walking by himself at night on his property, and it looked like he was running from something, and he looked terrified. It looked like his heart gave out from fear.
Okay.
Now, the Baskerville family has a weird legend that follows them that is the Baskerville curse. Because a long time ago, one of the Baskervilles was an absolute horrible person. He like kidnapped a girl, and then when she escaped, ran her down and killed her. But in that process, he was also being hunted by like basically a hellhound.
Okay.
So the legend goes that any of the Baskervilles who live at Baskerville Hall, so like their big mansion-y thing, if they live there, they are doomed to be hunted by the Hound and thus die mysteriously. So the Baskervilles pretty much moved away. Sir Charles had recently moved back. He's like, I'm super rich, and also I'm going to take care of this community, do a lot of, charity work and support a lot of local businesses and organizations. He became really super important. So Dr. Mortimer's like, this is weird. There's this weird supernatural thing, which I don't really think is true, but also I kind of do, but I don't want to say that I do because I don't, but I do,
Yeah.
And he's like, the problem, he's like, all right, Sherlock, I have less of an issue with the legend, and I have more of an issue with that the heir, Sir Henry Baskerville, who they had to track down and he was in Canada, is coming in tomorrow, and he's already getting death threats. So, they're just like, that's where the jam is. Sherlock meets Sir Henry, finds out that somebody is actually following him, and he's already gotten letters to like stay away and that sort of thing. Very mysterious, sort of like cut out of a magazine, like pasted stuff. It was from a newspaper, but whatever. And somebody had been following them. In fact, like Sherlock saw them being followed, but he couldn't catch the guy. So Sir Henry's like, well, I'm going to Baskerville Hall, because he's like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I am important now, and I have an important job to do. So Sherlock's like, well, I'd love to help you, but frankly, I'm too busy to be bothered. So I'll send John Watson. He's good enough. So he's like, John, no matter what you do, don't leave this guy's side. So they go to Baskerville Hall, John Watson and Sir Henry. When they get there, you meet Barrymore the butler and his wife, Mrs. Barrymore. There is something a bit weird going on about them. They're old, and they're just like, hey, we're going to get you settled, but we plan to leave. And they're just like, no, we want you to stay. And they're like, no, we have too many memories. Which might be true.
So they've been working for the Baskervilles.
Yeah, they've been working, well, and they were really fond of Sir Charles, who had died, so it was a traumatic thing. And I think Barrymore was the one who found him, so that's fair.
Let them go.
Yeah, but also, like, Mrs. Barrymore has been, like, crying at night, but Barrymore the butler... So the wife has been crying at night, but the butler, like, has been saying, like, no, she hasn't. But then she was like, yeah, no, I was crying, so why would you lie about that? Like, it was weird. There's weird stuff. So, like, the first night was super spooky, and they were just, like, both of them were like, this is a creepy place, and it's weird, and I don't like it. But in the morning, they were just like, and everything's daisies and sunshine. So... Sir Henry, you know how like Sherlock was like, hey, don't leave this guy's side.
Yeah.
So the first thing after breakfast, John Watson's like, I'm going for a walk. And then he goes away. Where he meets Stapleton, who is a guy who lives at one of the houses, like neighbor, whatever. But he's a naturalist. This guy like chases after anything that flutters with a net. And like he knows his way around the moors, and he's just like, dude, do not go into the moors. They're super dangerous. Look, there's a horse over there. See how it's going down into a sink pit. That thing's gonna die there. Oh, look, another one. So he's like, don't go out there. I can go out there because I know it like the back of my hand. And Watson's like, oh, maybe I should go. And he's like, no, really, you'll die. Like, don't
can't
do
die.
that.
Yeah.
We also meet Miss Stapleton, who is his sister.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm suspicious of that. Anyway, so
That he has a sister?
I'm suspicious that she is his sister, and I will get to reasons why.
Okay.
So she eventually meets Sir Henry, who immediately starts crushing on her hard. They start like kind of dating.
Okay.
And Stapleton, her brother, gets like outrageously jealous. Like wildly so, like absolutely mad and angry. At one point, like the sister and Sir Henry were like out on a date. They kind of snuck away together, and like I'm pretty sure he proposed to her, and
Okay.
I think that's what happened because that's what they said. So he proposed to her, and she was like standoffish, and he tried to kiss her, which frankly, she was not in the mood. That was part of the problem. She was not in the mood, but the brother saw it from a distance and like ran over and attacked him,
So
and was just
why
like,
would you be that?
yeah, because like this guy's the most powerful guy in the area. Like your sister would totally be marrying up and also be local and be cared for and taken care of for her entire life. Like logically, it would make sense that like this is a good match. And they seem to like each other. Like, it seems like it's a good match. So I'm suspicious that they're not siblings.
But why would they lie about that?
Why would they lie about that? I don't know. So, just that's where I'm being suspicious. That is all.
Okay.
Now, another little plot point is that when they arrived at Baskerville Hall, there were like guards all over the like cops on the streets and everything, because nearby was a prison and there was a convict that had escaped, and this guy is like a notorious murderer.
Okay.
So he's like out in the moors hiding somewhere, and the cops have been looking for him for weeks. Well, when they arrived it was like days, but now at this point it's like weeks. So the cops have kind of given up, and they're like, either he's gone or he fell into a pit. Like there's no way that he could survive out there. There's nothing to eat. There's nowhere to go. Turns out that convict is Mrs. Barrymore's brother.
Okay.
So the butler's brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason that she had been crying at night is because she's super stressed about her brother.
Right.
And Barrymore, the butler, has been really sneaky and has been like signaling when it's safe to like drop food on the edge of the property.
Okay.
So he would like do a signal in a window with a candle, and the convict brother would like signal back, and he would go and take food over there. Hi. Hi, Matt. So he would go and take food over there, and that sort of like that way the convict was still surviving out on his own.
Okay. So she's crying because she's stressed.
She's stressed. But now she's like, oh no, we're caught. Yeah. She's crying because she's stressed about it and because they're keeping this secret.
Yeah.
And now currently where we are is that John Watson and Sir Henry Baskerville have found out about the convict brother. It is like in midnight. And like the smart boys that they are, they're like, hey, are we going to go get him?
But, okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and very specifically, the man is out in the moors, and everyone has told Sir Henry Baskerville, don't go in the moors.
But
also, it's dangerous anyway.
Do we not think that the escaped murderer convict has to do with Charles's death?
Might be.
Okay.
Might be. That's a possibility.
Okay.
So,
That might be too obvious, though.
I don't know. We don't know. Like, there's red herrings, but we don't know. So, yeah. So right now they're like, okay, get your revolver, put on your boots. The sooner the better. Mm-hmm. We're gonna go get him. Like,
I guess.
This is a bad
At the very
plan.
least, just to ask some questions.
The man is a convicted murderer.
Let's just see what he's been up to.
Like, what? Like his name was in papers. Like, goodness sake. Okay, here we go, where we're picking up. In 5 minutes, we were outside the door, starting upon our expedition. We hurried through the dark shrubbery amid the dull moaning of the autumn wind and the rustle of the falling leaves. The night air was heavy with the smell of damp and decay. Now and again the moon peeped out for an instant, but clouds were driving over the face of the sky, and just as we came out on the moor, a thin rain began to fall. The light still burned steadily in front, where the convict is.
Right.
Are you armed? I asked. I have a hunting crop. Good job, buddy. I have a stick.
Yes.
These guys, see, we wouldn't do this. I have a hunting crop. We must close in on him rapidly, for he is said to be a desperate fellow. We shall take him by surprise and have him at our mercy before he can resist. I say, Watson, said the baronet, what would Holmes say to this? How about that hour of darkness in which the power of evil is exalted? Exactly.
We all know about demon hour.
That's right. Specifically when you have a family curse of a hellhound following you around.
Yeah, it's hounding you even.
Oh, here we go. As if in answer to his words, there rose suddenly out of the vast gloom of the moor that strange cry which I had already heard upon the borders of the great Grimpen Mire. It came with the wind through the silence of the night, a long, deep mutter, then a rising howl, and then the sad moan in which it died away. Again and again it sounded, the whole air throbbing with it, strident, wild, and menacing. The baronet caught my sleeve, and his face glimmered white through the darkness. My God, what's that, Watson? I don't know. It's a sound they have on the moor. I've heard it once before. It died away, and an absolute silence closed in upon us. We stood, straining our ears, but nothing came. Watson, said the baronet, it is the cry of a hound. Mm-hmm. My blood ran cold in my veins, for there was a break in his voice which told of the sudden horror which had seized him. What do they call this sound? He asked. Who? The folk on the countryside. Oh, they are ignorant people. Why should you mind what they call it? Tell me, Watson, what do they call it? I hesitated, but could not escape the question. They say it is the cry of the Hound of the Baskervilles. Yeah.
What do they call it? Oh, I don't know. Nothing. Don't worry about that. Well, they just call it the very specific curse pine family. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just carry on, you know? He groaned and was silent for a few moments. A hound it was, he said at last, but it seemed to come from miles away, over yonder, I think. Yonder is such a fun word. We should bring that back.
Word of the day, yonder.
Word of the day. Where's the bathroom? Over yonder. That'd be so mean. Anyway, it was hard to say whence it came. It rose and fell with the wind. Isn't that the direction of the great Grimpen Mire? Ooh, the Grimpen Mire comes up again. Yes, it is. It was up there now. Well, it was up there. Come now, Watson, didn't you think yourself that it was the cry of a hound? I am not a child. You need not fear to speak the truth. Stapleton was with me when I heard it last. He said that it might be the calling of a strange bird. No, it was a hound. My God, can there be some truth in all of these stories? Is it possible that I am really in danger from so dark a cause? You don't believe it, do you, Watson? No. Convincing. Mm-hmm. And yet it was one thing to laugh about it in London, and it is another to stand out here in the darkness of the moor and to hear such a cry as that. And my uncle! There was a footprint of a hound beside him as he lay. It all fits together. I don't think that I am a coward, Watson, but that sound seems to freeze my very blood. Feel my hand. It was as cold as a block of marble. You'll be all right tomorrow. I don't think I'll get that cry out of my head. What do you advise that we do now? Shall we turn back? Yes, you should turn back. You should turn.
I think they need to keep going.
Do you think so? Let's go find an escaped convict in a dangerous moor in the middle of the night where there's clearly something out there, and I have a stick.
Yes, but I'm always pro go.
Well, good news. No, by thunder, we have come out to get our man, and we will do it.
You've got to finish the job.
You just want the drama. Yeah. We after the convict and a hellhound, as likely as not after us. Come on, we'll see it through if all the fiends of the pit were loose upon the moor. Okay, buddy. We stumbled slowly along in the darkness with the black loom of the craggy hills around us and the yellow speck of light burning steadily in front. There is nothing so deceptive as the distance of a light upon a pitch black moor or a pitch black night, and sometimes the glimmer seemed to be far away upon the horizon, and sometimes might have been within just a few yards of us. But at last we could see whence it came, and then we knew that we were indeed very close. A guttering candle was stuck in a crevice of the rocks which flanked it on each side. Yeah, candle.
I was like, what is he holding? Like a flashlight?
That's fair.
Some sort of reflector?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So a candle was stuck in the crevice of the rocks which flanked it on each side so as to keep the wind from it and to also prevent it from being visible, save in the direction of Baskerville Hall. So there were like two big bushes.
Yeah.
So like you could really only see it from like one window on a wing of the house that wasn't used at all.
Yeah.
So it was very strategic. Candle. Right. A boulder of granite concealed our approach, and crouching behind it, we gazed over at the signal light. It was strange to see this single candle burning there in the middle of the moor with no sign of life near it, just this one straight yellow flame and the gleam of the rock on each side of it. "What shall we do now?" whispered Sir Henry. "Wait here. He must be near his light. Let us see if we can get a glimpse of him." The words were hardly out of my mouth when we both saw him. Over the rocks, in the crevice of which the candle burned, there was thrust out an evil yellow face, a terrible animal face, all seamed and scored with vile passions, foul with the mire, with a bristling beard, and hung with matted hair. It might well have belonged to one of those old savages who dwelt in the burrows of the hillsides. So there were like old ruins and stuff of like, like Neolithic, old folks who not there no more. The light beneath him was reflected in his small, cunning eyes, which peered fiercely to the right and left through the darkness like a crafty and savage animal who has heard the steps of the hunters. Something had evidently aroused his suspicions. It may have been that Barrymore had some private signal which we had neglected to give, or the fellow may have had some other reason for thinking that not all was well. But I could read his fears upon his wicked face. Any instant he might dash out into the light and vanish in the darkness. I sprang forward, therefore, and Sir Henry did the same. At the same moment, the convict screamed out a curse at us and hurled a rock which splintered up against the boulder which had sheltered us. I caught one glimpse of his short, squat, strongly built figure as he sprang to his feet and turned to run. At the same moment, by a lucky chance, the moon broke through the clouds. We rushed over the brow of the hill, and there was our man running with great speed down the other side, springing over the stones in his way with the activity of a mountain goat. A long, lucky shot from my revolver might have crippled him, but I had brought it only to defend myself if attacked, and not to shoot an unarmed man who was running away. Look, you gotta prepare yourself for these things, I guess.
So they scare him, and he's like, that ain't my brother-in-law. I'm dipping.
Yeah.
And they're like, why is he running? Wait.
They're like, Lish what? We were both swift runners and in fairly good training, but we soon found that we had no chance in overtaking him. We saw him for a long time in the moonlight until he was only a small speck moving swiftly among the boulders upon the side of the distant hill. We ran and ran until we were completely blown, but the space between us grew ever wider. Finally, we stopped, and sat panting on 2 rocks while we watched him disappearing into the distance. And it was at this moment that there occurred a most strange and unexpected thing. We had risen from our rocks and were turning to go home, having abandoned the hopeless chase. The moon was low upon the right, and the jagged pinnacle of a granite tor stood up against the lower curve of its silver disk. There, outlined, as black as an ebony statue on that shining background, I saw the figure of a man upon the tor, which I think is a really big rock, standy-uppy. Do not think that it was a delusion, Holmes. Oh, he's writing letters to Holmes.
Right.
Because Holmes is back in London, and he's just like, I will tell you everything that happens, even when he's dumb. Anyway, do not think that it was a delusion, Holmes. I assure you that I have never in my life seen anything more clearly. As far as I could judge, the figure was that of a tall, thin man. He stood with his legs a little separated, his arms folded, his head bowed as if he were brooding over the enormous wilderness of the peat and granite which lay before him. He might have been the very spirit of the terrible place. It was not the convict. This man was far from that place where the ladder had disappeared. Besides, he was much taller man. With a cry of surprise, I pointed him out to the baronet, but in the instant during which I had turned to grasp the arm of the man, he was gone. There was a sharp pinnacle of granite still cutting the lower edge of the moon, but the peak bore no trace of that silent and motionless figure. I wished to go in that direction and to search the tor, but it was some distance away. The baronet's nerves were still quavering from that cry, which recalling the dark story of his family, and he was not in the mood for fresh adventures. He had not seen this lonely man upon the tor, and could not feel the thrill which his strange presence and his commanding attitude had given to me. A warder, no doubt, said he. The moor has been thick with them since this fellow escaped. So like a cop. Well, perhaps his explanation may be the right one, but I should like to have some further proof. Today, we mean to communicate to the Princetown people where they should look for their missing man, but it is hard lines that we have not actually had the triumph of bringing him back as our own prisoner. Such are the adventures of last night, and you must acknowledge, my dear Holmes, that I have done you very well in the matter of a report. Much of that, which I bet Holmes is just like, this is all nonsense.
Yeah, you do great job, buddy.
Good job, dude.
Real good.
Much of what I tell you is no doubt quite irrelevant, but still I feel that it is best that I should let you have all of the facts and leave to you to select for yourself which of those will be the most service of you in helping you in your conclusions. We are certainly making some progress. So far as the Barrymores go, we have found the motive of their actions, and that has cleared up the situation very much. But the moor, with its mysteries and its strange inhabitants, remains as inscrutable as ever. Perhaps in my next letter, I may be able to throw some light upon this also. Best of all, would it be if you could come down to us? In any case, you will hear from me again in the course of the next few days.
He's like, once again, what if you came?
How about you deal with this?
It's a fun little side quest, though.
You know, and like, he's like also so proud to be given the responsibility. Like, he's just, oh, he trusts me. He thinks that I'm good enough to do this. Let's go. All right, chapter 10, extract from the diary of Dr. Watson, which is interesting because the other ones have been letters.
Oh, so this is his own private.
Yeah, so this is his own private
He's
one.
going to be like, just told Holmes, everything's fine, but maybe he should come, but really?
Because, if you are not aware, like, these are supposedly written by John Watson to, like, papers and stuff. So, like, the story, even though, like, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who is the actual in real life author, he wrote them, but he wrote them like John Watson was writing them. So it's him kind of compiling all of these different things. All right, so chapter 10, extract from the diary of Dr. Watson. So far, I have been able to quote from the reports which I have forwarded during those early days to Sherlock Holmes. Now, however, I have arrived at a point in my narrative where I am compelled to abandon this method and to trust once more to my recollections, aided by the diary which I kept at the time. A few extracts from the latter will carry me on to those scenes which were indelibly, weird one, indelibly, it was, every so, you get tripped. Indelibly fixed in every detail upon my memory. I proceed, then, from the morning which followed our abortive chase of the convict and our other strange experiences upon the moor. October 16th, so this is an excerpt. October 16th, a dull and foggy day with a drizzle of rain. The house is banked in with rolling clouds, which rise now and then to show the dreary curves of the moor, with thin silver veins upon the sides of the hills, and the distant boulders gleaming where the light strikes upon their wet faces. It is melancholy outside and in. The baronet is in black reaction after his excitements of the night. I am conscious myself of a weight at my heart and a feeling of impending danger, ever-present danger, which is the more terrible because I am unable to define it. And have I not cause for such a feeling? Consider the long sequence of incidents which have all pointed to some sinister influence which is at work around us. There is the death of the last occupant of the hall, fulfilling so exactly the conditions of the family legend, and there are repeated reports from peasants of the appearance of a strange creature upon the moor. Twice I have with my own ears heard the sound which resembled the distant baying of a hound. It is incredible, impossible, that it should really be outside the ordinary laws of nature. A spectral hound which leaves material footprints and fills the air with its howling is surely not to be thought of. Stapleton may fall in with such a superstition, and as in Miss Stapleton was kind of like being like, "Go away," because she's just like, "Do you not? What are you thinking?"
So they've seen footprints.
Also. They have seen. So next to the body of the old deceased Baskerville was a big footprint of a hound.
But did they know his cause of death? Like, was it an animal attack or was it?
No, it looked like the man's heart gave out.
Okay.
Like it looks like he was
got scared to death.
Yeah, it looked like he was terrified to death, type of a thing. I mean, there might be more going on.
Yeah.
But from just that, they were just like, so. Stapleton may fall in with such superstition, and Mortimer also, said the doctor. But I have one quality upon earth, and it is common sense, and nothing will persuade me to believe in such a thing. To do so would be to descend into the level of these poor peasants who are not content with a mere fiend dog. Sorry.
What a jerk.
I know, but so not content with a mere fiend dog, but must needs describe him with hellfire shooting from his mouth and his eyes. Holmes would not listen to such fancies, and I am his agent. But facts are facts, and I have twice heard this crying upon the moor. I love how he's just like, it's not spooky, but...
Holmes would agree, but man, I have heard it. I'm waiting for Holmes to come and be like, that's a ghost.
Spooky. Suppose that there were really some huge hound loose upon the moor, that it would go so far to explain everything. But where could such a hound lie concealed? Where did it get its food? Where did it come from? How was it that almost... hold on. It's like a massive paragraph, okay? How was it that no one saw it by day? It must be confessed that the natural explanation offers almost as many difficulties as the other. And always, apart from the hound, there is the fact of the human agency in London, the man at the cab, and the letter that warned Sir Henry against the moor. This, at least, was real, but it might have been the work of a protecting friend as easily as of an enemy. Where is that friend or enemy now? Has he returned in London or remained in London, or has he followed us down here? Could he be the stranger who I saw upon the tour? Ooh, spookifying. It is true that I have had only one glance at him, and yet there is some things to which I am ready to swear. He is no one whom I have seen down here, and I have now met all of the neighbors. The figure was far taller than that of Stapleton, far thinner than that of Franklin. Barrymore, it might possibly have been, but we had left him behind us, and I am certain that he could not have followed us. A stranger, then, is dogging us, just as a stranger dogged us in London. We have never shaken him off. If I can lay my hands upon that man, then at last we might find ourselves at the end of all of our difficulties. To this one purpose I must now devote all of my energies. My first impulse was to tell Sir Henry of my plans. My second, and wisest one, was to play at my own game and speak as little as possible to anyone. He is silent and distraught. Distraught? I'm going with like a distracted, probably. That one. Distraught?
Well, that's not my fault. That's a charger. Distraught. Let's find out.
Distrait. We will find this one out. So he is silent and distraught. His nerves have been strangely shaken by the sound upon the moor. I will say nothing to add to his anxieties, but I will take my own steps to attain my own end. What do we got?
Distracted.
Distracted or absent-minded, which scans. The guy's got a lot on his brain. Mm-hmm. We had a small scene this morning after breakfast. Barrymore asked to leave to speak with Sir Henry, and they were closeted in his study for some little time. Sitting in the billiard room, I more than once heard the sound of voices raised, and I had a pretty good idea what the point was which was under discussion. Yeah.
Using my powers of observation.
They were playing billiards.
Mm-hmm. I heard it.
They were very competitive. After a time, the baronet opened his door and called to me. Barrymore considers that he has a grievance, he said. He thinks that it was unfair on our part to hunt his brother-in-law down when he, of his own free will, had told us the secret.
It's fair.
The butler was standing very pale, but very collected before us. I may have spoken too warmly, sir, said he, and if I have, I am sure that I beg your pardon. At the same time, I was very much surprised when I heard you two gentlemen came back this morning and learned that you had been chasing Selden, the guy who escaped. The poor fellow has enough to fight against without my putting more upon his track. Like going back to prison where he should... Okay.
Maybe he's innocent.
Maybe. Well... Maybe. Who knows? Maybe this will be another, bonus mystery that's solved eventually in the book.
I mean, but it is his brother-in-law, so he's like...
They do have some loyalties there. Yeah. All right. If you had told us of your own free will, that it would have been a different thing, said the baronet. You only told us, or rather, your wife only told us, when it was forced from you, and you could not help yourself. Because they had, Barrymore had been sneaking through the house in the middle of the night, and they, cornered him and made him wet himself. It was pretty funny. And he was like, I'm not going to tell you. And then his wife showed up and she's like, I'll tell you. Okay.
I like her.
She's pretty great. I didn't think that you would have taken advantage of it, Sir Henry. Indeed I didn't. Why? The man is a public danger. There are lonely houses scattered over the moor, and he is a fellow who would stick at nothing. You only want to get a glimpse of his face to have to see that. Look at Mr. Stapleton's house, for example, with no one but himself to defend it. There's no safety for anyone until he is under lock and key. He'll break into no house, sir. I give you my solemn word upon it. But he will never trouble anyone in this country again. I assure you, Sir Henry, that in a very few days the necessary arrangements will be made, and he will be on his way to South America. For God's sake, sir, I beg you not to let the police know that he is still on the moor. They have given up the chase there, and he can lay quiet until the ship is ready for him. You can't tell on him without getting my wife and me into trouble. I beg you, sir, to say nothing to the police.
Okay. why couldn't they have just hid him in the house this whole time?
You know,
isn't it a big house?
It's not a big house. It's a big house. And also, like, there's, like, disused wings of the house. Like,
why are they making him stay out on the moor? I'll bring you some food. Don't worry about it. Let me stay in the house.
Yeah.
And then they're going to put him on a ship to South America.
Yeah, right. Thanks. Yeah, it's just like...
Which, you know, it was a lot easier just to run away back in the day.
That is true.
Just get on a boat.
We did not have cameras this time.
I mean, yeah, no way to track anyone.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot harder, for sure. Yeah, you don't have to worry about credit cards.
Yeah.
And tracking all that nonsense. Yeah. What do you say, Watson? I shrugged my shoulders. If he were safely out of the country, it would relieve the taxpayer of a burden. Well, how pragmatic.
Yeah.
But how about the chance of his holding someone up before he goes?
He hasn't so far, though.
That is true. He has not so far. So far now, he is just like, bye.
Yeah.
He would not do anything so mad, sir. We have provided him with all that he can want. To commit a crime.
Except a place to stay.
The man is like living out in the wilderness.
And like some cheese and bread.
He's cold and like dirty. Like, to commit a crime would be to show where he is hiding. Okay, well, yes, that is fair. Yeah. It would reveal him. That is true, said Sir Henry. Well, Barrymore, God bless you, sir. Thank you from all my heart. It would have killed my poor wife if he had been taken again. I guess we are aiding and abetting a felony, Watson? But after what we have heard, I don't feel as if it could come... After what we have heard, I don't feel as if I could give the man up. But so there it is at the end of it. All right, Barrymore, you can go. With a few broken words of gratitude, the man turned, but he hesitated and then came back. You've been so kind to us, sir, that I should like to do the best that I can for you in return. I know something, Sir Henry, and perhaps I should have said it before, but it was long after the inquest that I found it out. I have never breathed a word about it yet to an mortal man, and it is about Sir Charles's death. Ooh. The baronet and I were both upon our feet. Do you know how he died? No, sir, I don't know that. What then? I know why he was at the gate at that hour.
Okay.
It was to meet a woman. To meet a woman? He? Like...
What? Okay.
How could he want a woman? Yes, sir. And the woman's name? I can't give you the name, sir.
But you know it.
But I can give you the initials.
Okay, there's only so many people in this world.
The initials were LL.
Ooh, Lois Lane.
Lois Lane. Uh-oh, you've got competition, buddy. It's not good for you. How do you know this, Barrymore? Well, Sir Henry, your uncle had a letter that morning. Okay. He had usually a great many letters, for he was a public man and well known for his kind heart, so that everyone who was in trouble was glad to turn to him. But that morning, as it chanced, there was only one letter, so I took the more notice of it, and it was from Combe Tracy, and it was, which I think is a place. So it was from Combe Tracy, and it was addressed in a woman's hand. Well, sir, I bet you was like in cursive, because like women write in cursive here. That's my general assumption. It's absolute nonsense.
Perfume sprayed on it.
There you go. Yeah. They only write in black ink, where men would only write in blue. Yeah. Well, sir, I thought no more of the matter, and never would have done had it not been for my wife. Only a few weeks ago she was cleaning out Sir Charles's study. It had never been touched since his death, and she found the ashes of the burned letter in the back of the grate. The greater part of it was charred to pieces. But one little slip, the end of a page, hung together, and the writing could still be read, though it was gray on a black ground. It seemed to us to have been a postscript at the end of the letter, and it said, Please, please, as you are a gentleman, burn this letter and be by the gate by 10 o'clock. Beneath it were signed the initials LL. Have you got the slip? No, sir. It crumbled all to bits after we moved it. Good job. Convenient. Had Sir Charles received any other letters in the same writing? Well, sir, I took no particular notice of his letters. I should not have noticed this one, only that it happened to have come alone. And you have no idea who the SLL is? No, sir, no more than you have. But I expect that it could lay our hands upon the lady. We should know more about Sir Charles's death. I cannot understand, Barrymore, how you came to conceal this important information. Well, sir, it was immediately after that our own trouble came to us. And then again, sir, we were both of us very fond of Sir Charles, as we well might have be considering all of that he had done for us. To rake this up would help to rake this up couldn't help our poor master, and it's well to go carefully when there's a lady in the case, even the best of us. You thought it might injure his reputation? Well, sir, I thought no good would come of it, but now that you have been kind to us, and I feel that it would be treating you unfairly not to tell you all that I knew about the matter. Very good, Barrymore, you can go. And the butler had left us. Sir Henry turned to me. Well, Watson, what do you think of this new light? Mm-hmm. It seems to leave the darkness rather blacker than before. So I think if we can only trace LL, it should clear up the whole business. We had gained that much. We know that there is someone who has the facts if only we can find her. What do you think we should do? Let Holmes know about it at once. I will give him the clue for which he has been seeking. I am much mistaken if this does not bring him down here. That's nice. I'm glad that you are very confident in your friend. I went at once to my room and drew up my report of the morning's conversation for Holmes. It was evident to me that he had been very busy of late, for the notes from which I had from Baker Street were few and short, with no comments about the information which I had supplied, and hardly any reference to my mission at all. No doubt his blackmailing case, which he was absorbing all of his faculties, and yet this new factor must surely arrest his attention and renew his interest. I wish that he were here.
So Holmes is straight up ignoring him.
He's straight up ignoring him and like working on a different case. He's just like, yeah.
He's so distracted.
Yeah, so he's just like, look, if you can be interesting enough to grab me, fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'll come, I guess, maybe. All right, so we're going to end it there. We are in the middle of chapter 10, but it's also at the beginning of another diary entry, so we will wait for next week for the rest of that one. So, okay. Thoughts, concerns, suspicions?
LL. We
Lois
only
Lane.
No. Yeah, that's the only LL I can think of.
I mean, yeah.
LL Cool J.
There we go. There's another.
The only women we know are Mrs. Barrymore.
Right, Barrymore and Miss Stapleton.
And Stapleton.
Right, yeah.
B and S.
Mm-hmm.
But
we also know that
suspicious about Stapleton.
Yes. Well, I'm suspicious about Stapleton.
You're suspicious.
Yes.
What if Stapleton is actually LL?
That is a thought. I have that thought as well.
It's either that or someone we haven't met yet, I guess.
Right. But. And I will say that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is criticized for just kind of like leading you along with all of this little intrigue and whatever, and then Sherlock at the end pops up and goes, here's all this evidence you weren't given.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like, well, clearly there's this random woman you've never met because it was never mentioned.
Yeah.
Who is the key component of all of this. Right. So like, maybe could just be somebody, it could be somebody who is just like in the community who is wanting to meet him for whatever reason.
Or is blackmailing him.
Could be that.
Because then he goes to meet her for what? For her to be like, I'm pregnant with your child.
Oh, scandal. See, that's what the butler was concerned about. Didn't want scandal. The reputation.
What else would it be?
But if that's the case, if you were like, hi, I am pregnant with this man's child, therefore my baby is the heir to his fortune.
Yeah.
Why would you not make yourself known? like bring that up.
Yeah, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And would that scare him to death?
Yeah, now see, the question though is, one of the questions was, how did he die?
Mm-hmm.
Like what made him look like his heart burst?
Yeah.
The other was, why was he out there to begin with?
Yeah.
Because he did have a habit of like walking down to the gate and back. It was on his property.
Yeah.
But he would go down to the gate and back. But in this case, there was evidence to show that he walked to the gate and stood there for like 20-ish minutes or something. Because like he was smoking and there were like piles of ash.
Okay.
To show that he was like standing there for a while.
Yeah.
So apparently he was waiting for something when he kind of turned and the footprint showed that he was running away. Mm-hmm. And that's where he was found dead, running away from the gate. So,
okay.
Suspicious nonsense. We shall have to see where this all goes about. I will be updating our YouTube channel and getting these videos up there. So if you want to get caught up and listen to all the other little nonsense-y comments that we have about this story, you can watch it there. But in the meantime, we'll see you next week. All right. Good to go?
Awesome.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Have a good one. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.